Hello everybody, welcome to The World This Week. Up to 700 migrants are feared dead after their boat sinks off the Libyan coast. Russian President Vladimir Putin says he's ready to work with the United States. Hillary Clinton on one side, Marco Rubio on the other. The presidential campaign is taking off. And French politics is warming up ahead of the presidential campaign in 2017. These are some of the issues we'll touch upon this Sunday. With me this Sunday are Danielle Ziri, formerly Israeli ambassador to Washington and deputy foreign minister, and Professor Yossi Shane of Georgetown and Tel Aviv University. Welcome, gentlemen.
It's a pleasure.
Let me start with something that came out of Jeb Bush on the day that Hillary Clinton announced her race for presidency, and let's watch it and talk about it later.
In the coming weeks and months, I look forward to an exchange of ideas and substantive policy proposals. I believe that every American deserves the right to rise and the opportunity to achieve the American dream, and that abroad, America should be respected by our allies and feared by our enemies. That's why it's critical we change the direction our country is heading. We must do better than the Obama-Clinton foreign policy that has damaged relationships with our allies and emboldened our enemies. Better than their failed big government policies that grow our debt and stand in the way of real economic growth and prosperity. I believe it's conservative ideas that will renew America, grow our economy, put our fiscal house in order, and make our great country even stronger. I know we can do better, and together we will.
Well, first of all, I bet he's running.
Oh, that's no doubt about it. And he's doing it very humbly because he's the 800-pound gorilla. So in order not to ostracize people and not to look conceited, he's doing it in the right way, I believe.
Maybe, Professor Shine, for the first time in a long time, we'll see foreign policy in this campaign as an issue?
It's a possibility because, first of all, we know that the standing of the United States in world affairs is what really matters right now. We see it. Obviously, the American economy seems to do better, but still there are issues, outstanding issues. And they can also connect U.S. foreign policy to the issue of values, which is so essential in American domestic affairs. So I think that Jeb Bush kind of like hinted to the point that we have to discuss matters that relate to foreign affairs because they impinge upon what we do domestically.
Respected by our allies, feared by our enemies. Who is he talking about?
Well, he's talking about the collapse of the Obama ideology and policy whereby the United States is not taken seriously neither by its enemies nor even by its allies and friends. And we have just to see the most conspicuous example is the Saudis actually are the spearhead of this Arab coalition, Sunni Arab coalitions against the Houthis and the Iranians in Yemen.
Now, there's a big summit coming up in Camp David with the Gulf states and President Obama. What's the deal there?
Look, there is as my colleague Ambassador Allen said, we have here a very big issue. And the big issue is what Nathan Sharansky wrote this morning in the Washington Post. Does America forgot its foreign policy or its standing in the world? And people are asking this question. What is at stake? How much America is willing to stick its neck, and what are the boundaries of this sort of involvement? Many people understand that America has no foreign policy whatsoever, that the value system of democracy is no longer even articulated, even vis-a-vis Cuba. No one is articulating the values of America, what America wants. And most importantly, no one sees the stick that America can hold vis-a-vis its enemies. So this is emboldening what Bush said, its enemies, and perhaps is leading to this kind of understanding in the Middle East that there is no one to trust. And if there is someone to trust, maybe we really have to bring him to the fore. So this is what the discussion is all about, and we will see what will be the outcome. I will make one small point. And if you remember the speech given by Prime Minister Netanyahu on the eve of Yom HaShoah, of the Shoah Memorial Day, he made a very interesting point about the fact that perhaps the West, led by the United States, is shying away from taking its role as it should be, and therefore enhancing the possibility of calamity in the world. He also said, however, in a footnote, that we have new possibilities in the Middle East, new allies. Interesting enough that he considered perhaps Jordan, Egypt, and Saudi Arabia better allies to deal with the world threat than the United States. Just a thought.
Would you agree?
Well, at this point, I have to absolutely. I agree with Professor Shane, because we see a lack of vision, a lack of leadership, a lack of will. The United States, there is no doubt that nobody is really a match to the United States. Not Russia, not the Chinese or anyone else. But it's not just a matter of capabilities; it's a matter of will. And once there is a detection that there is no will whatsoever by the United States to lead and to pay, of course, some prices, then everybody can just do whatever they want.
On the other hand, let's watch Vladimir Putin.
We will work with any leader of the United States, with the American people elect. We do not cooperate with a concrete person. We cooperate with a country, one of the largest and most influential countries in the world. We have disagreements on a number of positions. There are problems in our relations in the field of security. I mean, the unilateral withdrawal of the United States from the anti-missile defense system. This is the most important disagreement.
Well, this guy is running the show like no other.
Look, what happened in foreign policy or in international politics, no vacuum. And Putin understands that this is the time for him to assert himself. He also understands that there is a limitation to his involvement. So Putin is playing a game without any American intervention, but he's playing a game that can also haunt him domestically. So this is
I'm asking myself, what are the limitations that even Putin sees?
Well, for him, it's the economy, and especially, Russia, with all its enormity, is a country with one product, and one product only, which is the oil. And once the oil and natural gas, once the prices go down, the Russian economy is really in a shambles, and this is what he fears. So he knows there are limitations, and although at this point, the Russians still feel very nationalistic and are behind Putin, but he's not sure how long this will take. And the sanctions are beginning to bite. So as we said before, there is a difference between capabilities and will. The United States have the capability but no will. Russia has no capabilities but has the will.
What if the Russians sell these S-300 missiles to Iran, and in her turn Israel will arm Ukraine?
Well, the Russians already are fearing that, and there was a stern warning by Putin himself in his mouth that Israel should not arm Ukraine. By the way, they have already threatened us 5-6 years ago not to arm the Georgian army as well, and we have agreed to that in the hope that there will be a rapprochement, or there will be some kind of reciprocity where the Russians will not supply to the Syrians or to the Iranians, but we see that it doesn't work.
There is something very interesting here, Jacob, to understand. Israel is a very peculiar place.
Yes, I know.
For many years, we were seen as part of the American camp. So we're kind of an extension of America. Right now, when there is a bridge between Washington and Jerusalem, Israel is in a very, very dangerous place. In what respect? The Russian can threaten Israel. The United States will not give the backing. Israel can do certain things, but it doesn't know where Israel belongs. This is putting us in a very, very dangerous place, in my opinion, and we better get with the program and see to what extent we can really close this gap that has emerged with Washington. It's not going to be easy because of what we have discussed, but without it, we think that we all have allies, but we have no allies but the United States.
Professor Shine and Ambassador Ayalon, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Let's talk American politics now and presidential campaign with I-24 News correspondent Tal Shalev, who joins us from New York. Hello, Tal.
Hi, Jacob. How are you?
I'm good. How's Hillary? Let's start with Hillary Clinton post-Burrito Gate. How's the campaign looking?
Well, it's looking quite good. The media has been dominated by Hillary's campaign, and the media has been running around following Hillary on her road trip. She launched a road trip on a Scooby-Doo van to Iowa, and she definitely has been the focus on the headline. And her main challenge is to rebrand and reinvent herself. After 25 years in the public eye, she wants to bring something new to the table. So it's no more Madam Secretary or no more First Lady, hello Hillary, and no more big rallies and public podiums podiums. We're talking about much more small and intimate meetings this time. So in many ways, this burrito incident in which she wasn't recognized when she walked into a Chipotle restaurant actually plays good, because it says there is hope for Hillary. She might be able to reinvent herself as a new face coming to politics, and not as the very well-known celebrity profile she has been holding up until now.
And also we have a newcomer on the Republican side. Of course, Marco Rubio is in as well. What's the deal with him?
Well, Marco Rubio probably is one of the most interesting faces to follow in the Republican race to the nominee for the president. Rubio is still far away from being a front runner in the GOP, but he is probably as close as the Republicans could get to an Obama of their own. He does represent in many ways the American dream. He's young, he has a baby face, he comes from, he's a Cuban immigrant family. His father was a bartender, his mother was a maid. So definitely he is, has a challenge. He's most widely remembered from his water incident in which he took a break to drink water during a speech in Congress in 2013. But Rubio is definitely tracking a lot of attention, although he's still a new face and still has a lot to overcome in a very complex presidential race that the GOP will be having in the upcoming months.
Meanwhile, in the House, there's a deal on Iran that everybody seems to be happy about. How could that happen?
Well, that could happen when both sides want to present some kind of accomplishment. There was a compromise on the Corker bill in the Senate Foreign Affairs Committee. The bill's language was revised in a way that the president could support him. So actually the unthinkable happened, but there was a bipartisan bill that was approved and the president even supported. But in that way, each side is claiming its own victory. Republican and Democratic lawmakers are saying that they cornered the president to support an Iran bill that he didn't really support to begin with. And the president said that the bill was narrowed so much that it doesn't interfere with the negotiations that will be going on in the upcoming months. So each side can present their victory. It depends who you want to believe.
Well, Tal Shalev, I-24 News correspondent in New York, thank you very much.
You're welcome. Bye, Jacob.
Now to French politics, and there too, there's a presidential campaign with the far right catching the headlines this week. With us is Danielle Ziri, I-24 News editor. Thank you very much on the French channel. Thank you very much for coming. How has the far right in France become a family business?
Completely a family business, Yaakov. And actually, people in France call it the Dallas of French politics, the whole family family
soap opera of right wing.
Soap opera, completely. And that starts with the patriarch, right? And the patriarch in this case is Jean-Marie Le Pen, that you can see right behind me. He's 86 years old. He founded the party in 1972. He was the first president of the party and the founder. He's been there for ages. For 50 years, his family's been leading this party. He has 3 daughters, all of whom have been involved somehow or are still involved. Their spouses as well are involved in the party, even his ex-wife was. Of course, the most involved of them is Marine Le Pen, who is now the president of this party. She took over for him in 2011. And even the granddaughter is getting into the mix now.
Now, it looks like the daughter is doing even better than he did, maybe thanks to some changes in her policies, which he now disapproved.
Yes, well, we actually had a big rift last week, especially because of that. You have to know the relationship between Marine Le Pen and her father has always been quite rocky. In fact, she calls him Le Pen and he calls her Madame Le Pen. So that just goes to show you how rocky this relationship is. But he has always been known for controversial comments, very hateful speech. And she sort of had enough of it. Last week, she stood up against it. And what broke the camel's back was another comment about the Holocaust, which he's done many times before. This time he called the gas chambers a detail of the Second World War. She stood against it. She said it was political suicide to say something like that. And she announced officially that she was not going to support him in the bid for regional elections. So that created a huge rift between them. And she has indeed wanted to detach from her father in that sense.
Right, but not that she's changing really her ways. I mean, she's a nationalistic, extreme right politician. Maybe she tries to disguise this a little bit?
A little bit. Well, you know, she's worked very hard to get to this point where she is today. We have to know that this party is actually doing quite great in France. I mean, a few years ago, saying that they would have a chance in the presidential bid was quite far-fetched. Today, not so far-fetched anymore. And there's a few reasons for that. First of all, it's a party that's been gaining popularity in France, especially against the backdrop of the disaster that François Hollande and his socialist rule has made of France. If you look at, you know, the results in previous elections, the departmental elections last month and the European elections last year, they came in first and second places. So they're doing quite well under her. And also the attacks in Paris in January kind of played into that narrative, the anti-immigration narrative that they've been advocating for this whole time. It was sort of the I told you so that Marine Le Pen needed. Now, what's interesting is that she kind of wants to put her controversial father aside, which means last week's rift between them and this fight and her standing up against her father could, some people say, be orchestrated and be something specially made so she can appeal to average voters and show that she's not her father.
Everything possible with this family.
Everything is.
Danielle Ziri, I thank you very much.
Thank you.